Hey guys, this is going to be a comparison between the SE4 and the 4 Max Scout. I was very curious about this and I thought maybe some of you guys are curious. These are two knives which were built for a similar purpose, I think. You can watch what Andrew Demko has to say about the 4 Max and the 4 Max Scout, and the SE4, that's pretty clear. Now I have tested the SE4 quite a bit, I work with it quite a bit, and it is a great fixed blade. And the 4 Max Scout is just a ridiculous folder that works. Now, there are differences, of course. Fixed blade, folder. Carbon steel, stainless steel, difference in handle materials, size, and weight. The SE4 has about 2 millimeters blade length on the 4 Max Scout. And the 4 Max Scout is heavier. However, with the sheath, the SE4 is heavier, and you're going to have to carry this in a sheath. The obvious advantage is that if you carry something like this in the outdoors, you can easily put it in your pocket, and that's that. Whenever you get back into civilization, let's say, you don't have to do anything special with it. It's in your pocket. People will likely not see it, especially if you don't carry it clipped to the pocket like I rarely do. This one will be in its sheath, and depending on laws or where you live, you might have to put it in your backpack. That means that you're going to have to take the sheath off, put it there, and if you need to cut something, you're going to have to retrieve it from your backpack. So that is a clear advantage on a folder like this. But I thought because of the weight, the 4 Max would be a better chopper, even if the edge angle on the SE4 is smaller. And yes, this will be more comfortable to work with if you don't wear gloves. If you wear gloves, I think they're both equally as comfortable. But the Micarta handle scales are really, really comfortable. I prefer them over the G10 handle scales I have on my SE3. The edge angles, a bit smaller. This is about 18 degrees per side, if I'm not mistaken, and it's about 20. There's going to be a difference, and the first thing is going to be chopping hardwood. Very dry, and if it's like the other pieces, it's supposed to be very hard. So let's see how they do. Now, they are both sporting the Spartan John's Pinky Lanyard patent pending, because this can turn a heavier 4-inch blade or folder into a decent chopper. Do you want to chop with a blade that's 4 inches long? No, but you might actually need to, and the option comes in handy. Plus, it doesn't really get in the way. That's why it's such a great invention. Haven't seen a lot of people use them. Maybe they respect the patent pending keep mentioning. Although I did get a question where somebody wrote where they could get one, and well, it was probably a joke. So let's stay in frame. Move this over so it doesn't keep scraping my knee. And let's see. This is about what I can do with the SE4. Even though the edge angle is a bit smaller, it doesn't get such a deep bite. Now, the fact that they have different steels heat treated to different hardnesses shouldn't really make a difference on the outcome. And Rowan's heat treat of 1095 is actually quite good, especially for woodworking. And these knives are just very, very resilient. I actually lent this knife to a friend and told him he could do whatever he wants outdoors, split wood, baton wood, and if he breaks it, it's not an issue. And he actually buried this in a piece of wood, and it was severely bent. And after the wood split, the knife came back to its original shape. There is no bend in the blade, and that is a good heat treatment in my opinion. That was not easy. And you can count the hits maybe, but without the Spartan John's Pinky Lanyard patent pending, this would have been much tougher. Especially if you don't have an axe or a saw with you. Now let's see the 4-Max Scout. I have a longer reach. I can put more momentum into this, and that really matters, I think. Wow. Split a piece off quite easily. Now there is a lot more force here. A lot more power. It's really not a contest. I mean, it's just a lot easier. Against my better judgment, try this without gloves, although the Voyager already did a number on my finger because I used it without gloves. And the handle on the Voyager is a bit, well, aggressive, let's say. Feels okay. The glove does help here because the lanyard hole is a bit big. But let's use it without the lanyard hole. Give it a few hits. Even without the Spartan John's Pinky Lanyard patent pending, it's still doing a good job. I still have a lot of control because of the way the handle is built, curves, so I can get a good purchase on it. Let's see the ESEE. And I initially put this lanyard here to use it without gloves. For this one, really, you don't need any gloves. It's very comfortable. Let's try the other side. I still don't get a bite that's this deep, as deep as with the 4-Max Scout. Shorter handle, less power behind it. Now let's try it without the lanyard. I don't feel as safe putting a lot of force behind it because I fear it might be slipping. Even though micarta can be grippy when you hold it like this, when you chop with it, because of the shape of the handle, it's gonna fly. Okay, I think that's enough. This, you can just feel how this one buries in wood. Now, folder will never be as safe as a fixed blade, that is for sure, but cold steel's triad lock really does a good thing about it. Now in batoning, I'm gonna have to try to find two matching pieces of wood about, and I'm gonna give the bigger one to the 4-Max Scout because it has a steeper grind. It's not a full flat ground blade, so I think it's gonna do just fine. I guess I'm tired. I didn't even look at the thumb steps. I was wondering, why didn't it keep going? Yeah. Really not an issue. I'm gonna try and go besides the split here, so to the side of the split, so that I don't take advantage of that split. But yeah, it's a thick blade. It's gonna do it. So all I have to do is just not get the thumb studs in the way, but you can remove those, and you don't really need the thumb studs when it comes to this knife. You can just open it like this, or just swing your wrist. Okay, where was the other piece? Equally sized, around here. It's a bit smaller. Was it? Yeah, it's a bit smaller, but the ESEE can really plow through just about anything, as long as you can hit the blade. Oh, this is mainly bark. All right, we're gonna split it nevertheless. As long as it's a bit smaller than the blade, so you can actually hit the blade. It's not gonna have an issue. Let's try this one. Yeah, seems a bit better. It's a bit harder. There's definitely more control with this one because of the full flat ground blade. That's how I feel it. Now here, much like with the 4-Max Scout, where I have to look out for the thumb studs, here I have to look out for the choil. If you get wood stuck in the choil, it won't do it. Here you have the choil and the thumb studs, but arguably you have more blade length on this, although the tip is wider on the 4-Max Scout. So if you have to hit the very tip, you're gonna have a better surface to hit on. Okay. And of course, if you're gonna baton very knotty wood, it is a folder. It's more likely to fail than a fixed blade like this. Let's do some cross grain batoning, because I honestly don't know why. It's not really about actual real world scenarios, it's just about testing them. All I want to do is not hit the locking mechanism that hard. I'm not worried if I do, but not an issue. Not an issue at all. Same piece of wood. ESEE. It actually broke it off. Due to the fact that the 4-Max Scout has a wider blade, it was much easier for me to get through that piece of wood. But I feel more control with the ESEE. Now let's put it to the test with a wider piece. This is the sort of thing that is interesting to me. I don't know if there's a real practical side to this test. I don't know if anybody would actually consider taking a folder or a fixed blade. In my case, I say why not both? But this is the thing that I'm curious about. And it's one thing to do this at home, where you have a nice surface, a nice flat surface, a nice surface to work on, a nice flat surfaces to hit on. And it's a different thing to do it out here, where you have to improvise. That was the bark. let's go on the other side. Now this is the nice part about the ESEE 4. I've done this a lot of times, baton cross grain, and as long as you keep the blade perpendicular and you hit perpendicularly on the blade, it's not going to fail. But in this case, sometimes you do hold it at an angle and hit it at an angle, and that's where, if a steel is too hard, it may break, chip, damage may occur. Now let's test fate here with this one. See how it turned a piece of wood for me. There's one hit. That's it. It's easier to control this knife because it has a wider blade and the handle is much bigger. All right. Ooh, foot fell asleep. So let's get some nice straight grain wood and try some wood shavings. Now this is going to be a very unequal test because the edge angle on the ESEE 4 is smaller. So it's going to be much easier. And this is a tough wood to shave because, well, in this case, the piece is fairly straight grain. Let's go on this corner. This is where the gloves really come in handy, because otherwise you get a lot of splinters in your hand. Choking up on the blade with gloves feels okay. Well, yeah. I am purposely squeezing the knife really hard in my hand because that's what you do when you're tired. And I guess after doing this purposely for so long, it's kind of become a habit for me, which is not a good thing. Okay, let's try a looser grip. Let's hold it by the handle. Less control. So yeah, you can choke up on it, have better control, but it does about what I know it to do and what was expected. You can have very fine wood shavings, and you can probably light some with your ferro rod. Yeah. Now that I'm doing this, I'm really thinking about dropping the edge angle a bit more. Although I did that on my Zula, and anything below 17 degrees per side, I've had issues with it. It is much softer steel, so to speak. I don't know what the hardness on them is. I think I've heard it in a video that the ESEE 5 is somewhere around 55 and the other ones are 57, 58, 59. I'm not sure. But yeah, the Zula was definitely, I think, too soft for that. Let's get a new piece of wood with nicer corners and see what the 4 Max can do. I feel less of a need to squeeze it in my hand, but I'm gonna do it anyway. But it feels better because there's just more material there. And here the edge angle is really working against me. If I want to get a deeper bite, I'll just split the wood and maybe get that. On the corners, I'll take a piece off and it'll fall there. Honestly, I would have thought the ESEE was gonna do much better in this test. I should drop the edge angle on this one. Definitely. That's one thing that I have to do. Choking up on it. This is really comfortable. I'm not going to do this without gloves because I'm going to get splinters in my hand. I don't want to do that. Yeah, you can feel how much easier it goes in. But I do need to choke up on it to have the control, and it doesn't feel that good. And the reason why I need to choke up on it, it's not necessarily because I want the cut right here, it's because the handle is so small and I keep holding my finger here, which is comfortable with gloves, wouldn't be as comfortable without. But like this, say this would be the position I'm most comfortable with. And yeah, the edge angle will do it. Here I choke up and this is how I am, in the position that I'm supposed to be, I guess. So yeah, not sure what else I could show here. Chopping, batoning, and some wood shaving without gloves for smaller tasks. I think the ESEE4 would be much better. Any fixed blade will be more comfortable than a folder. I always found the handles on the ESEE to be, the ESEE models, 3 to 4, to be a bit small and a bit thin. And they're very flat. Initially, I thought that was a bad thing. But as I kept working with them, I saw the advantages. And one advantage is they're easier to control. So when you're tired, the fact that it's such a wide and flat handle, it's really easy to control in your hand. Now, like I said, this is gonna be more comfortable because it's a fixed blade, and the micarta handle scales are just phenomenal. This, it's not that bad. For a folder, it's big enough that it's gonna be comfortable, but without gloves, you can just feel this line here, the cutout where the blade goes, and it feels weird. With gloves, however, it feels much safer. And I'm a very big advocate of having some type of gloves. I usually wear these. Sometimes when I do a lot of tests, they will not have these gloves in, but some cut-proof gloves just to help out in case. But like this, any folder is going to be comfortable. However, it might be a bit big for this. But any glove, I do prefer to have instead of working without gloves, especially when handling a lot of wood. Now, my conclusions, I told you while doing this test. Let's call it a test with some air quotes. You can draw your own conclusions. That's why I wanted to show it to you. And that's why, well, we're at 25 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. I was very curious. And the conclusion for me is right now think I'm going to drop the edge angle on this one. I do like the 4 Max Scout. I think it's I just call it in the video I made about it a ridiculous blade that works, and I still think that's the case. It's just something very ridiculous that works very, very well. I like the knife, and I think if I would drop the edge angle, I won't have any issues with it chipping. As for the ESEE4, I haven't tried the newer models with the bushcraftier handle scales. I think those look great, but this model is just fantastic. This is still one of my favorite knives, partly because I got it as a gift from a friend, and partly because it's just so fantastic. And I have abused this knife way harder than I will ever need to use it. So yeah, I do like the ESEE4, and that's why I thought this was a good comparison. I have other 4-inch blades, but none which I've used so much with the Spartan John's Pinky Lanyard patent pending on it. So guys, I hope you enjoy the video. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, put them in the comment section. I'll try to get to them as soon as possible. More details in the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, I wish you all a great day.